Hello, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to do a gear video. It's a long time since I did a gear video about what's in my bag. It's been best part of a year or 9 months since I did the last one, and quite a lot of the gear that I'm using has changed during that time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through all of the gear. Now I'll explain. You guys are sitting on top of a little Manfrotto tripod, sort of a 30-pound tripod, which is my vlogging camera support tripod normally, and I'm videoing this not using my normal vlogging camera simply because I need to be able to show it to you. So I'm actually doing this using my iPhone 10, which will do a perfectly ample job of keeping track of what I'm saying and showing you, or at least me showing you what it is that I've got. So that equipment there, in other words you guys, is explained away. Let me first cover tripods. This is my newest tripod. This is part of a video all to its own. This is the Peak Designs carbon fiber travel tripod, which is a beautiful piece of design and engineering. It's really very light. It extends to a reasonable height, although sometimes I find it wanting because the center column, even fully extended on top of the main tripod, is eye level. This brings the camera up to eye level for me, and I'm just a 5'11". I'm not the tallest person, so it's not ideal for everybody. But it does fold up incredibly small and compact, and it all fits together, and it's, I don't know what the quoted weight is, but it's not a lot to have with you. And it's got their patented sort of almost Arca Swiss plate arrangement, but this one has got a quick release plate which locks when you turn this handle. You tighten it down with that so that everything's locked into place. I won't go into any great detail about this because I've actually done a video on this one before, and I've also done a video on quite a few of my pieces of equipment before. So that's one of the tripods. That tends to be my go out. If I'm traveling light, I'll take that one. Conversely, if I'm going out and or doing macro or anything that requires incredible rigidity or handling strong winds, I'll take this. This is my Sirui, the model number escapes me. It's a R2514XL, and this on maximum extension, it's got 3 leg extensions that extend, and they're all pretty meaty. The whole thing's pretty meaty, actually. You can see from the size of it relative to my hand. It's with this center column, which is in 2 parts, it will actually go up to approximately 9 foot, which means of course you can't even touch the camera at that distance, so you have to be, as I am. I use a Sony app on my phone which allows me to communicate with the camera, so that if I'm not able to touch it, and especially if it's at the top of this, peering over a hedge that I wouldn't be able to get past otherwise, this is basically the business. On top of this is a Benro geared head, which I really love this head because it gives me so much fine control over exactly what I'm framing up. So that is my big heavy macro stroke, studio stroke. I'm going somewhere like Iceland, I need something really solid because it's windy. I'll take that beastie with me. It's quite heavy, so it's a conscious decision to take that. You really have to think twice about it. So I'll move on to the main camera. This is my Sony A7R4, which I've had since September last, just over, so it's about 14 months old now. I got one of the first ones into the country, and I absolutely love this. The 62 megapixels, it's light, the battery life is now resolved and good, and all in all, I just love this camera. I've tried a Fujifilm GFX 50 as a possible replacement substitute for this and couldn't get on with it. It's too big and bulky. This is small, and it has on it at the moment the Peak Designs Really Right Stuff L bracket, which fits beautifully. A little bit pricey, but well worth the money because it is rock solid. And if I'm feeling like traveling light again and I'm using just the Peak Designs tripod, although this will work with the Peak Designs tripod, what I'll tend to do is just put one of the Peak Designs little mounting plates on the bottom of the camera to reduce the overall weight and just make things more compact. So that is the camera that I use, and at the moment it's probably one of the cameras at the top of the DxO Mark sensor specifications. It simply is really very good. It's up there with the D850 Nikon, the Z7 II, the Hasselblad X1D Mark II, and a few others. It's round about the as good as it gets category. It's got a couple of flaws. My main problem with it is that I don't like the menu system. It could be a lot easier to use, although I have customized the 3 customizable settings on here. So customized setting 1 is my landscape settings, customized 2 is my sport stroke high speed, high shutter speed settings, and 3 is video, should I use it for video. So I can switch between those quickly and be sure that I've got the base configuration I want for each of those types of activity. So that's the camera. In terms of lenses, this has got my latest toy on it, which I only got yesterday. I've had one of these Sony 90 macro lenses before. I found I wasn't using it a lot. I suspect I'll find I'm not going to use this one a lot, but it is an excellent portrait lens, and it is an excellent landscape stroke macro lens. It's got a nice feature that it's got a slipping clutch here, which allows me to switch between manual and autofocus easily. And it's got in-body image stabilization, although the camera has that, so the two work together. And it is a really sharp lens. It really is very, very sharp. I'm very pleased with that. And it's not made of metal. Some parts are metal, but most of it seems to be this black polycarbonate type material, and it's quite light. So that, all in all, is a really nice prime lens weight. I took that this morning up on a little shoot, and I really enjoyed using it. It really is stunning to use, and as I mentioned in that particular video, I'm beginning to get to the point that I can't rely on my eye in terms of focusing through the viewfinder on the screen, which is why I've sold the Samyang, which is sitting over there, the Samyang 100mm manual macro lens, which is equally not quite as sharp, but it's certainly a nice little lens. But I was missing critical focus on a few of them, so I'm more and more heavily relying on the automatic focus that the system gives me. So that's the main camera. That's one of the lenses. I don't have a lot of lenses. The other lens is this 24 to 72.8 G Master Sony lens. I've had this since I went across to Sony in 2015, and it's never failed. It's beautifully sharp, and it covers that mid-range zoom really very well. So that's one of them. Now, rather annoyingly, I wish 16 to 35s didn't overlap 24 to 70s. I'd rather it went 12 to 24. I know there is a 12 to 24, and I did have it for some time, but its front element curves out. You can't put filters on it. It's very heavy, it's very expensive, and it's very few times I need to go down to 12mm. So this is my 16 to 35 Sony G Master lens, which again is stunningly sharp. Really nice piece of kit and never lets me down. So that's that lens. And last of the lenses is my 100 to 400 Sony G Master lens. This again I've had for about 2.5–3 years. Love this lens. It really does the business, and again it's a beautifully sharp lens. It has image stabilization in the lens as well as the camera body, so you can get some pretty good shots with this. I also have, which I won't get out of the bag, or I will get out of the bag because the bag's open, this 2x Sony teleconverter. This goes only on that one lens, and that lens happens to be the 100 to 400. I take this everywhere with me because if I plonk this on, I've got 800mm, so I'm covered on the long end really well. So that covers pretty much the lenses and the camera body. I'll move across to a different camera in a second, but I've been invested in the K's filter system, and each one of these, you might notice I'll give this as an example. This little red flap on the front, which is a bit of sticky tape stuck on, is there so that I can pull on and off the little magnetic lens caps, which K's, it says K's underneath that sticky tape, you can't see it, but that is a magnetic filter holder. And that magnetic filter holder, and I love this system, just allows me to stack as many of these case filters as I want, polarizers, NDs, whatever it happens to be, whatever combination I want, they all fit, because luckily all of my lenses have either got a step-up ring to 82 millimeters or they're natively an 82 millimeter thread. So these 82 millimeter case filters work a treat, and I love them. I absolutely adore these filters. They're really a great system. I highly recommend it. I've got ND for 10 stop, 6 stop, 3 stop, and polarizer in here, and those 4 filters are the only filters I actually need for what I do. I can do the rest in post-processing, so I'm quite happy just having these filters with me. They don't take a lot of space up. The little leather case is convenient. Hang it on your coat or just keep it in your pocket. It's not as bulky as some of the other systems out there. For instance, the well, I won't mention names, but some of the other systems, and I've had them in the past, are really bulky. So that explains the funny little flaps I have on the front of all the lenses. The only lens that doesn't have an adapter for that is the macro lens. I might get an adapter and be able to mount those filters on there as well, but I haven't decided that I really want filters when I do macro work, so that remains not one of the options. This is the Sirui ball head that drops into the center plate holder on the big tripod if I happen to want to go ball head, but I so rarely use ball heads now. I'm quite happy with the geared head. I'm more than happy with that, and if I use the smaller tripod, it's got its own particularly quirky ball head on it, so I might be selling this, I don't know yet. So that covers those items. Now for vlogging, what I've got is, I've had these Osmos before. This is an Osmo Pocket 2, and this Osmo Pocket 2 comes with this really handy little sort of protective case that you can keep it in. It fits in there like so, and because I bought the combo pack, I've also got the Bluetooth microphone which just clips in there and is nice and solid, won't fall off. And that Osmo 2 is what I do most of my videoing on. It's a beautifully simple little thing. Because it's the combination pack I bought, it's got the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi extender on here, so it'll connect to my phone quite happily. It'll connect to this Bluetooth microphone, which is really handy. No wires, no trouble, just turn it on. This has got about a 4 or 5 hour battery life. This has got about a 2 hour record life on the battery. So I go out just with those fully charged and I'm good for a day. These really work well. The only downside is if you're dependent on just using the little screen on the Osmo Pocket, it's a bit difficult to use because it's small. But if you've got the thumb wheel adapter here, or you've got this handle, which is really neat, I'll show you how I use that. The handle, you unplug that little slide in gizmo, which is a little button, and it's also a joystick here. If I disconnect that and I open this up, the two things actually go together. You can see that the Pocket slides onto there and makes contact electrically with the unit here, which is the handle, and this has got, not only is it an extendable selfie stick as well, and adjustable, nicely adjustable, it's got a phone holder, so you can put the phone in here. The phone will automatically Bluetooth to this, so you can use the Sony Mimo app or even any of the other apps that are capable of talking to this. And on here we've got a button, floating button, joystick, whatever you want to call it, which allows me to control the head on the gimbal nicely. It's got three custom buttons if you count that one. It's got a lock button to lock the tracking mode. It's got a record button. It's got a flip the camera front to back selfie mode, and it's got a function button. And all of that gives you, reasonably for the sake of quite a compact little package, it gives you a lot of control over your vlogging. And the 4K quality out of this little Osmo is excellent. Can't fault it. I've had 2 or 3 other alternatives. You've seen in the past on some other videos I was using a Sony Rx100. The Rx100 alone is a £1,300 camera, and it's a compact camera, so it's nice and small. It's equally not waterproof as this isn't, but This whole combination was about £400, including the handle. I think that was another £50, £450. So it's a fraction of the price, and this does the job well. I also had, and this was a subject to one of my earlier videos in the summer, the new Sony ZV-1. That is a dedicated vlogging camera with flip out sideways screen and so on and so forth, and that really works well as well, but it's not gimbal stabilized, neither was the Rx100. So if you get to the point they're stabilized, you've got to add a stabilized handle and so on, and those all then become very expensive options compared to this, which is nice and neat, does the job perfectly. I'm very pleased with this. I'm pleased I switched back. I have had a couple of the earlier versions of the Osmo, but what I had as a problem with them was if I wanted to use a microphone with them, as you can see I've got remote microphones normally fastened to myself. If you want to use a microphone, you had to use cables, and that just defeats the object. I want to be as hands-free as possible, no clutter, no bits of wire to get disconnected or forget it to connect properly and so on. So this works really well. I highly recommend this if anyone's thinking of going out there and doing some vlogging. And then lastly but not least, and this doesn't get used as often as I would like, is this is the DJI Air 2. And I've got to finish doing my pilot's course to be able to fly this wherever I want next week. I can fly it pretty well around here because we're countryside, but if I want to use it in towns, I need a Class 2 certificate, and I'm going to have to do the course for it. And this little beastie takes 48 megapixel pictures. God knows how. It's a tiny sensor. You can look it up on the internet if you're interested. But in essence, I think DJI have been really quite clever, because I think all of this is the same pretty much as that. I think they're pretty much made more or less the same things for both. Anyway, they're in the business of making gimbals, and they do damn good gimbals. This little drone is stunning. It can do 4K video, which is great. It's pretty good at not running into things. Its cameras and obstacle avoidance is pretty good. But impressively, the battery life is good. This particular one, and I've had lots of drones in the past, virtually every DJI drone I've had over the years, this one gives me over 30 minutes flying time, real world. And with 3 batteries in the box here, I can do as much video with this as I want. And it is a very reliable piece of kit. Drones have come a long way in the last few years. So that is my drone. That is most of the equipment. Now, as this is a what's in my bag video, I think it's only appropriate to disappear over here and show you the bag. Otherwise it wouldn't be a what's in my bag, it would be this is the stuff I own that isn't in the bag. This is a low pro AW backpack something. It's got 2 shoulder straps as opposed to one of the single shoulder strap sling styles. I can get all of that gear in here, obviously not the tripods, but certainly the cameras, lenses and bits and pieces, excluding the drone, can all fit in that handily. It's got the advantage that it's actually the right size to fit in an overhead locker in one of those things no one's seen flying for a long time, and probably won't for some time to come. So the value of that being fitting into overhead locker space remains something to look forward to. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope that's interesting. If you've got any questions on the gear that I'm using and why I've chosen it, if I haven't explained it adequately here, please drop a link or a comment below, and I'll happily answer those. It's taken me some time to iterate to the package of equipment that I'm most comfortable with for my needs, but this is it, and that's what I'm using. I have been going through a bit of a potential gear acquisition syndrome problem recently, because with the new Fujifilm GFX100 coming out, given that it's now a much more compact size than the 100 that came out about a year or so ago, I'm very tempted to switch across. The thing that's holding me back at the moment is that this equipment's pretty damn good. It would take a lot to beat it, and I'm sure the GFX100 is good. But is it worth the extra money, because the lenses are very expensive on that range of cameras. Anyway, thanks very much for watching this. If you got this far, give it a thumbs up. It always helps the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.